They left me homeless at 17 with a note. 12 years later, I'm a millionaire and they want in. It is strange how a single moment can rewrite your entire history. For me, that moment happened on a Tuesday afternoon. I was 17 years old, a junior in high school, carrying a backpack full of textbooks and worrying about a history essay. I unlocked the front door, expecting the usual chaos. The TV blaring, my brother yelling at his video games, my dad complaining about the news. But when I opened the door, the air was still, dead still. It wasn't just quiet, it was empty. The kind of emptiness that rings in your ears. I walked into the living room, and the TV was gone. The family photos on the mantle were gone. My dad's recliner was gone. I ran to my brother's room. It was stripped bare, just dust bunnies in the corner. I ran to my parents' room, closets open, hangers on the floor. Nothing left. I walked into the kitchen, my heart hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird, and there, on the granite counter, was a single yellow sticky note. It had 5 words scrawled in my mother's handwriting. "You'll figure it out." That was it. No address, no phone number, no "we love you," just a command. They had moved 2 states away, and they had chosen to leave me behind like a bag of trash they didn't want to pay to haul. It took me 12 years to truly understand what that note meant. 12 years of scratching and clawing my way up from the bottom. 12 years of silence. And then, the moment I finally stood on solid ground, the moment I didn't need them anymore, they came back. To understand why they left, you have to understand the years leading up to it. I wasn't a bad kid. I didn't party. I didn't sneak out. But I was the invisible child, the utility child. I was there to be used, not loved. I remember my 13th birthday. I didn't get a party, so I decided to bake a cake for my mom's birthday the following week to show her how much I cared. I spent my entire allowance on ingredients. I spent 4 hours in the kitchen, carefully frosting a vanilla sponge. When I presented it to her, eyes wide, waiting for a hug, she took a fork, took one bite, and grimaced. She said, "It's clumpy, Emma. You didn't sift flour." And she walked away. She didn't say thank you. She just critiqued the texture. When I was 15, my older brother was failing 3 classes. My parents told me it was my responsibility to fix it. I spent my entire summer tutoring him. I retaught him a year of algebra. And the whole time, he sat there rolling his eyes, calling me a know-it-all, slamming his door in my face. When he passed his finals, my parents took him out for a steak dinner to celebrate. I wasn't invited. They said I had school the next day and needed to study. By 16, I was working. I gave my dad my entire paycheck every 2 weeks to help with the bills. One time, I asked for $20 back so I could go to the movies with a friend. He exploded. He screamed until his face was purple, telling me I was useless, that I was a burden, that I ate their food and used their electricity and gave nothing back. So, when I found that empty house at 17, I shouldn't have been surprised, but I was. I stood in that kitchen until the sun went down, waiting for the punchline, waiting for them to burst in and say it was a sick joke. But the darkness came, and nobody else did. I found out later from the landlord that they had terminated the lease early. He showed up a week later, confused to find me still there. He gave me 7 days to vacate, 7 days to dismantle the only life I knew. I packed my clothes into black garbage bags. I took my school books, I took a pillow, and I walked out. I couch surfed for a few days, but I knew I was overstaying my welcome. I didn't want to be the charity case. So, with the last of my savings, money I had hidden in a hollowed-out book so my dad wouldn't find it, I rented a storage unit. It was 5 feet by 10 feet, a metal box with a concrete floor. That became my home. I would wait until the facility manager left for the night, and I would roll up the metal door and sleep on a pile of blankets in the back, terrified that someone would hear me breathing. I showered at the YMCA down the street. I ate peanut butter out of the jar with a plastic spoon for breakfast, lunch, and dinner because it was cheap and it didn't need a fridge. I spent my days at the public library, not just to stay warm, but to survive. I used their free computers to apply for every job I could find. I pretended everything was okay. I went to school, I smiled, and then I went home to a metal box. Eventually, a diner hired me for the graveyard shift. The manager, a tough-as-nails woman named Barb, saved my life. She didn't ask questions about why a teenager was working until 6 a.m. She paid me cash under the table until I could get my ID sorted. She let me nap in the break room when I was so tired my hands were shaking. I clawed my way out of that hole, inch by inch. I bought a prepaid phone. I saved every single receipt. I watched YouTube tutorials on finance and investing instead of watching Netflix. I learned the language of money because I realized that money was the only thing that could protect me from being abandoned again. The turning point came when a regular customer at the diner, a guy who ran a logistics company, offered me a temp job organizing his files. I took it. I worked harder than anyone else in that building. I showed up early, left late, and asked questions. That temp job turned into a full-time role, then a promotion. By 22, I was freelancing as a consultant. By 25, I started my own business with nothing but a laptop and a folding table. By 27, I had employees. I had an office. I had clients like the ones I used to read about in magazines, and by 29, I hit the milestone. I was officially a millionaire, and I'm not talking about Instagram rich with leased cars and fake watches. I mean real wealth, a paid-off apartment, a retirement account, zero debt, and health insurance. The first time I saw 2 commas in my bank account, I sat on my kitchen floor and cried. I cried for the 17-year-old girl who slept in a storage unit. I cried because I was finally safe. In all those 12 years, my family never called, not on my birthday, not on Christmas. I saw my brother pop up on a suggested friends list once. He looked older, heavier. He was married. He was still living in the same state they had run away to. I stared at his face on the screen, wondering if he ever told his wife about me. Did he tell her I ran away? Or did he just erase me completely? Sometimes I wondered if I should hate them. But hate takes energy. I didn't have hate. I just had a hollow space in my chest where they used to be. I went to therapy to deal with that hollow space. My therapist, Melissa, helped me build a new definition of family. I made a list of the people who actually saved me. Barb from the diner, the teachers who looked the other way when I was late, the friends who bought me dinner without making a big deal of it. That was my family. Then, last week happened. I did a guest spot on a business podcast talking about surviving financial ruin. I briefly mentioned my background, being left at 17. I didn't name names, but the story was specific. The episode blew up. It got 1 million downloads in 4 days. My inbox was flooded with support, and then one email stood out. The subject line made my blood run cold. "You're still our daughter." It was from my mom. There was no apology. No, "Oh my God, are you okay?" It was just a long, rambling paragraph about how they heard the podcast and how there are 2 sides to every story and how maybe we could talk. 10 minutes later, another email came through. This one was from my brother. It was short. "We miss you. Can we fix this?" I stared at the screen for an hour. I felt like I was going to throw up. I closed the laptop and sat in the dark. I wondered if healing meant forgiving them or if it meant protecting myself. My therapist told me to wait. "Give it a week," she said. "Don't respond while you're in shock." So I waited. I went to the gym. I worked. I saw friends. But the emails haunted me. My mom's words felt cold, clinical. My brother's message felt desperate. After 10 days, I decided to reply to my brother first. I kept it simple. I wrote, "It's been 12 years. What changed?" He replied within the hour. He gave me a sob story. He said the podcast made him realize how wrong they were. He claimed he was only 15 when they left and didn't have a choice. He said he had looked me up online over the years but was too scared to reach out. He said seeing me successful made him so proud. I read it and I felt nothing. It felt rehearsed. So I pushed him. I asked, "Why now? Why wait until I'm successful to reach out?" And that's when the truth came out. He admitted that money was tight. My parents' business, a hardware store they bought when they moved, had failed. His wife was pregnant with their second child. Medical bills were piling up. My stomach dropped. There it was. They didn't want me. They wanted a bailout. Then my mom sent a follow-up email. She attached old family photos, pictures of me as a kid, smiling, blowing out candles. It felt like psychological warfare. At the bottom, she wrote, "We made mistakes. We want to make amends." I decided I needed to see this through, for my own closure. I agreed to meet my brother, just him. I flew him out to Chicago, where I live. We met at a coffee shop. When he walked in, I barely recognized him. He looked tired, worn down. We sat across from each other like strangers. He started with the excuses. "I was just a kid, Emma. I didn't know they were leaving you until we were in the car." I looked him in the eye. "Why me?" I asked. "Why was I the one left behind?" He looked down at his coffee. "They always said you were the strong one," he mumbled. "They convinced themselves you didn't need them. They thought I was the weak one who needed protecting." I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "I was 17, I said. "I slept in a storage unit. I showered at a gym. I was a child." He didn't have an answer for that. By the end of the meeting, he seemed remorseful. He showed me pictures of his daughter. He didn't ask for money directly, which surprised me. When we left, he hugged me. I stood there, stiff as a board, letting him do it. I didn't hug back. That night, my mom called my cell phone. I don't know how she got the number. Probably from him. Her voice sounded older, frail. She started crying immediately, talking about how much she missed me. I cut her off. "Why did you leave?" Her answer is burned into my brain. She said, "We were in debt, Emma. We couldn't afford 3 mouths to feed. We figured you would go to social services. We thought you'd get placed with a better family who could take care of you. We thought we were doing you a favor." Abandoning me to homelessness was a favor. I hung up on her. I blocked the number immediately. The next morning, my dad emailed. No apology, no emotion, just a list of their debts. He wrote about his bad back, my mom's heart condition, and the mortgage they were behind on. And then, finally, the ask. "Can you help the family out, just to get us back on our feet?" He didn't ask how I was. He didn't ask about my life. He just sent an invoice for a childhood he didn't provide. I made my decision then and there. I emailed my brother. I told him, "I am willing to have a relationship with you, but here are the boundaries. I will not give you a single cent, and I will have no relationship with our parents until they take full responsibility for what they did." His response was immediate. "I'm really disappointed in you," he wrote. "Family supports family. You have so much and you're being selfish. You're punishing us for the past." It was like a switch flip. All the guilt buttons they had installed in me as a child, they were smashing them all at once. I didn't respond. I booked a flight to Bali for a vacation I had been putting off. I needed to be on a different continent. 3 days later, my brother Michael called me. He apologized. He said he was stressed and that he would respect my boundaries. I decided to give him one last chance, but my guard was up. When I got back from Bali, the harassment escalated. My dad had sent 6 more emails, ranging from begging to threatening. Michael texted me asking if I would meet our parents for just 1 hour. I felt panic rising in my throat. I blocked Michael. I stayed inside my apartment for 2 days. Then my doorman called. "Ms. Miller," he said, "there's a couple here to see you. They say they're your parents." My blood ran cold. They had flown here. They were downstairs. I told him to send them away. My dad left a voicemail 10 minutes later calling me a petulant child. On Thursday, I woke up to pounding on my apartment door. They had somehow slipped past security or tailgated someone in. "Emma, open this door." It was my mom's voice. I froze in bed, terrified. I felt like I was 17 again. I called building security. They came up and escorted them out, but the damage was done. My sanctuary had been violated. My therapist came over for an emergency session. She looked me in the eye and said, "You do not owe them access to you. You are allowed to protect yourself." Then, the emails turned nasty. Michael emailed me furious. He said I had humiliated them. He told me they were staying in a cheap motel they couldn't afford, waiting for me to stop being stubborn. Friday morning, I decided to leave town. I packed a bag to go stay with my friend Rachel in Portland. As I was zipping my suitcase, the doorman called again. "Ma'am," he said, his voice tense. "The woman, your mother, she just collapsed in the lobby. She's clutching her chest." I stood there, phone in hand. The old Emma would have run down there. The old Emma would have fixed it, but the new Emma stayed put. "Call 911, I told him. "I'm not coming down." Later, I found out she was taken to the hospital for chest pains. Michael called me from the airport, screaming that she had a heart attack and it was my fault. "You're killing her!" he yelled. "This stress is killing her!" I almost broke. I almost went to the hospital. But my therapist texted me, "You are not responsible for her health. This feels like a manipulation tactic." Sunday night, my dad emailed. "She is stable," he wrote. "She is asking for you. Don't you think you've punished us enough?" I walked to my front door. There was a bouquet of cheap flowers sitting there that they must have left before the ambulance came. I threw them down the trash chute. Then I got a photo on my phone. My mom in a hospital bed, hooked up to wires. The caption read, "Do you want to live with the regret if she dies tonight?" I blocked that number too. Then came the knock on the door that changed everything. I looked through the peephole. It wasn't my parents. It was a young woman holding a toddler on her hip. I recognized her from the photos Michael had shown me. It was his wife, Jenny. I opened the door, leaving the chain on. "Can I help you?" "I'm Jenny," she said. She looked exhausted. "I came alone. No drama. I just need to tell you the truth." I let her in. She sat on my couch, bouncing the baby on her knee, and she unraveled the whole web of lies. She told me Michael had lied to her for their entire marriage. He had told her that I ran away when I was 17, that I was on drugs, that I was mentally unstable and cut them off. She had no idea they abandoned me until she heard the podcast. She told me that my parents had been telling everyone in their hometown that I was a thief. They told neighbors I stole thousands of dollars before disappearing. They had even created fake Facebook posts years ago, pretending to look for me, playing the grieving parent. Jenny was horrified. She told me the financial trouble wasn't hers. It was my parents. They had drained Michael's savings. They were financial vampires. "I want my children to know their aunt," Jenny said, tears in her eyes. "But not if it brings this circus into your life. I won't let those people near you if you don't want them." That night, my dad played his final card. He sent an email threatening to sue me for defamation because of the podcast. He demanded I take it down and pay them a settlement for their emotional distress. I forwarded the email to my lawyer, Marcus. He called me laughing. "Let them try," he said. "Discovery would be a nightmare for them. They abandoned a minor. We have the upper hand." We arranged a final meeting. Me, Marcus, Michael, and Jenny. The full story came out. My parents had been leeching off Michael for years. When Jenny confronted them about the lies regarding me, my dad had grabbed her arm hard enough to leave bruises. That was why she came to me. Michael had finally snapped. He kicked them out of his house. Now they were stalking him too. It turned into a nightmare of breaking and entering. My parents broke into Michael's house while we were meeting. They stole documents and old photos. The police were skeptical at first, calling it a civil dispute, until we showed them the bruises on Jenny's arm and the threatening emails. I invited Michael, Jenny, and their daughter Lily to stay in my guest wing for safety. The next day, a delivery arrived at my building. Another bouquet of flowers. The note read, "We know you're all together. This isn't over." We went to court. We filed for restraining orders. In the courtroom, my parents tried to play the victims. They acted like frail, confused, elderly people who just wanted to see their children. But the judge wasn't buying it. He looked my father dead in the eye and asked, "Did you leave a 17-year-old girl in an empty house and move 2 states away without telling her?" My father stammered. He couldn't answer. The judge slammed the gavel down. Restraining orders granted. 3 years. No contact, no emails, no showing up at my building. As we walked out of the courtroom, my mom screamed my name. "Emma, we love you." I kept walking, I didn't look back, but it wasn't quite over. 2 days later, Michael got a text from a burner number. It was a photo of his daughter Lily playing on a swing set at a park. The text read, "Still not over." That was the line. The terror ended there because I decided to end it. I emailed them one last time. I told them to meet me at a public coffee shop. I walked in and I didn't sit down. I looked at the people who gave me life and I felt nothing but cold resolve. "This ends today," I told them. "You have lost me. You have lost Michael. You have lost your grandchildren. If you ever come near us again, if you send one more text, I will release every email, every threat, and every police report to everyone you know. I will post it all online. I will ruin your reputation permanently." My mom started sobbing about dying alone. My dad called me an ungrateful brat. And in that moment, I realized the truth. They were never going to change. There was no redemption arc. There was no realization of love. They were just parasites looking for a host. I walked out of that coffee shop, and I haven't looked back since. It's been months of silence now. The restraining orders are active. Michael and Jenny moved their family to a house 10 minutes away from my apartment. We do Sunday dinners now. We're building our own traditions. I realized something important through all of this. I am not defined by the empty house they left me in. I am not defined by the note on the counter. I am defined by the empire I built in the vacuum they left behind. I am defined by the person I chose to become and the family I chose to create. And as for that note, you'll figure it out? I did. And I figured out I'm better off without them.